Oh, well, isn't that beautiful? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Once again, whenever you might be listening to this, you could be tucked up in bed, nice and cozy, try to get something to put you to sleep, and you have the dulcet Scottish tones of me and my partner in crime, Aaron. Aaron, hello.
Hello, mate. Hello. The January transfer window wasn't what we expected it to be. It was quite a quiet one, but in terms of business transfers, I think this is the busiest one, right? The biggest one. Happy to be here and can't wait to pick it back up off the ground and make the National League the best podcast we can do. Yeah,
It's
happy
like
to be here.
make National League great again.
Yes.
We should have red hats that Trump had and just have make National League great again. Just right over the top. I think that's one for the new merch line for us. But yeah, a few folk will see that or and hear that this is a little bit different for us. We are fully under lower league. Look, little bit of change, new intro, new overlays on YouTube, new logo in the bottom right hand corner. And do you know what? I'm back. I've not been here for a couple of weeks. It's good to be
Yes.
back in the studio. And
It's nice to have the little less responsibility of using my spastic charm to carry the show for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, it's nice to be the co-host this week instead of the main host. Yeah.
it's yeah, you certainly over the last couple of weeks as the main host. Cheers for that, Aaron. I mean, we're straight into it. Wow, we're gonna have to censor this one straight away. But I mean, do you know what? It's been a funny old week of football, hasn't it? Again, you mentioned you mentioned the transfer window. I think it's important for us to kind of put out straight away that the National League doesn't
Yes.
really have a transfer window. Like the January transfer window in the Football League was a little bit underwhelming, I thought. And
hmm I think
yeah,
what happens is like, and we noticed it when we were doing the live stream. Like all the clubs stay quiet, and it's like at 10 o'clock they panic and they're like, "Shit, we've got 1 hour left. Let's explode."
yeah, they just seem to go for it at 10 o'clock, or they just seem or deliberately leave announcements until 10 o'clock. We've seen Swindon do it. They announced like three at
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night. First one obviously being Harry McCarthy.
I mean, the one thing that I can relate back to the National League for us in the January transfer window is we had two outgoings on deadline day. One of them was Joe Nuttall, who, listen, professional, unprofessional, so I'm going to say it. I wish Joe nothing but the best, but in my opinion, he's up there with one of the worst strikers I've seen at Latics in a long, long time. And somehow he's managed to get his agent to give him a League One move, and you've got to respect it. But I put a tweet out, and I stand by the tweet. If his agent can get him a League One move, I want to speak to the same agent and see whether he can get me walking because he can perform miracles. Let me tell you.
You also you also lost someone to air as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Kurt Willoughby.
Yep, that was it.
Um, yeah, so yeah, I mean, look, Kurt came with a big Kurt came with a big representation from the National League North last year with Chester. Banging goals in for fun and whatever. But like we've said in previous podcasts, I think this year of all years, you can actually see a sizable difference in quality between the teams that have come up and the National League teams. You're seeing it with your Oxfords, you're seeing it with like people like that. There is a gulf in quality, and I think he's just struggled a little bit with the step up. But there is a player in there in the Scottish League, and like you said to me on WhatsApp, maybe the transfer to the Scottish League for a season could be what he needs to restart his career because there's definitely a
Yeah.
player in there. He's just lacking in a lot of confidence at the minute.
Sometimes it's exactly what you need. You look at the likes of Tommy Adeloy, who also went up to air, and he had a great season there, and he got another move back to he got moved back to Swindon after that, I think. But he didn't really he's not featured too much at them. And then you have a look at your big depot. He was phenomenal at air as well, weirdly enough. And then he's got his move to York, and he's having all right. He's having a good season with York, despite York having a fairly poor season this season for the investment that they've made in the club.
I think the thing was for Latics is because there was a lot of supporters quite rightly obviously we're happy that we were spending money, but then on the flip side of it, there was a lot of us that were a little bit worried that maybe the wage bill was expanding, that could have a knock-on effect for next season or whatever. So, like, it was important for us to get some bodies out, and, like, we had more strikers before deadline day than I've had operations, and
you had so many strikers. I
you
said
know,
to that. How are you
yeah,
going to keep all of these strikers happy? Like, I still can't see. You're still getting an inflated front line.
yeah, definitely. I mean, well, yeah. I wish we'll get into it later on, but I can't
I was
believe
going to
Dallas
say
has
we'll
signed
get
for
in,
us, and then we've kept him on the bench for two
we'll
games.
get into it later. It's going to be interesting because despite that striking prowess that you have, yeah, we'll talk about that game for maybe about a minute when we get to it. I think your other exit was an interesting one for me personally, Brennan Dickinson.
Yeah. And like I said to you, look, Brennan is a fantastic footballer with probably one of the strongest left pegs I've ever seen. But also, we have to take into account he probably has weaker joints than me at the minute. Like he obviously he had the big injury at Mansfield. I think it was an ACL or something like that, and so we knew signing him could have been a risk. And I remember his debut was the 5-1 win earlier this season against Aldershot at home, and he scored two absolute like corking goals, and you're thinking we've got a player on us here. And then in that period, he literally only started 6 games, I think, because he was injured all the time. So I said to you, if you can get him fit and get him firing, you've got a great player on your hands. But it's just whether he can keep fit.
I just try to keep him. I really what it is, and I suppose it's why you find a lot of players of their ability still playing in the National League because they pick up injuries either quite easily. It's what we tend to get. But I think kind of moving on from the transfer window side of things, there's a lot of League Two teams now, League One teams that have got overinflated squads.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see coming into March. I think that's when our transfer window officially closes. You'll probably
the registration window, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the registration window. You'll see a few. I think we'll see clubs making a few loan signings coming in or picking up players that are no longer needed on maybe a little bit of a cheaper deal now that the transfer window's closed in the EFL, and maybe picking them up on 1-year deals. So still a lot of business to be done in the National League, and a lot can change. Now, that's moving me really well into the first game that I really want to talk about today. And it's been not a recent change, but I've not really spoke about it on here yet. And that is the form and the managerial change over the last couple of weeks to Kidderminster Harriers. Now, Phil Brown has came in to a level where I think he is more than capable of managing at. I was really dubious when he came in at Barrow the other season. And I was like, this isn't going to go well for Barrow. He's going to take Barrow down. But he left Barrow in a phenomenal position. And we can see what Pete Wild's now done with Barrow. And they're a team that have been knocking on the door of the playoffs. What do you make of, one, what the appointment was at the time when Phil Brown came in? And two, what he's done since he's come in? Because Kidderminster now have went unbeaten in 4 in the league. In fact, they've won 4 on the bounce in the league.
Well, I'm going to be a man here, and you'll remember in previous podcast episodes when we first discussed this, I called Phil Brown as one of the EFL dinosaurs. I still stand by that statement in terms of you get your odd managers that will come and do the rounds, like your John Sheridans, your Neil Warnocks, your Phil Browns that are always going to have a job. And that's what I meant with that. But look, I was a bit worried for Kiddie when he appointed, because I thought obviously the experience was there, but I didn't know whether his tactics were a little bit outdated and whether they struggle. But look, it's been completely the opposite. I think you're seeing the positive influence of experience right there. You've got a man that's been there and done it at like pretty much every level, hasn't he? In England, and you're seeing it now, and like it just seems to have stripped Kiddie back to the basics of being hard to beat, but also having a really sort of potent goal threat now, and they're reaping the rewards. And look, 3, 4 weeks ago, if you would have said to me if Kidderminster Harriers got a chance of staying up, I probably would have edged to saying no. But right now, as things stand, I think they have got a very, very decent chance, and I think that is all down to Phil Brown and his players. So maybe he's making me eat a bit of humble pie, and I have to take back some of my words.
I mean, the thing is, you look at the results as well that they've had. They've came from 2-0 behind twice in their last 4 games. So the first one was against Aldershot. Aldershot were 2-0 up, and then Kidderminster beat them 4-2. Then they had a game against Hartlepool. Complete wrong time for Hartlepool, that game. And that was the game that ultimately cost John Askey his job. They beat us 1-0. Was it 1-0? Yeah, they beat us 1-0.
It was the Oldham game that cost him his job, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. Because we beat. Sorry, I was getting it the wrong way around. We beat Kidderminster, I believe.
And then you lost. I'm just letting everyone know that you lost the double tours over Christmas. If you remember that, Greg.
Yeah. I'm trying to forget about that. But yeah, it was a loss to you. So I stand corrected. Apologies. So they beat us 1-0. Our fans were furious at that. Then they beat Dagenham 1-0. And then just recently, in a 6-pointer, they went 2-0 down to Oxford City. And they beat them 3-2. So they're a team that no longer just lays down when they go behind. Just like you said, they seem to have fight. They seem to have desire. And it's definitely looking up for them. They've got they've closed the gap to come out of the relegation spots now, and they've really pulled your teams like they've really pulled things like Fylde, Dorking, all the way up to 12th place in this league. I believe can still get relegated.
I like how you cut off at 12th because Hartlepool are conveniently 11th.
Yeah, we're fine. I said this to Leo every game last season. I was like, nah, we'll be all right. While we were still in the bottom 2, but I genuinely think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
I am not looking down in this league as a Hartlepool fan. But more on that will come to light when we discuss the Hartlepool.
I think, like you just said though, like I said, the thing is with Phil Brown is he might not play the sexiest vavavoom football, but with them type of managers, the fundamentals are going to be there. You work harder than everyone else. You run harder than everyone else. You battle for every ball. If you've not got the quality of the opponents, you at least let the opponents know that they've been in a war by the end of the game. And I think that's what you're seeing with the kiddie mentality at the minute. And look, it's serving them well.
You see, as a fan, right? That's all you want to see. When I go to a game, I just want to see desire. I want to see a fight. I want to see passion. Like, fair enough. You see, if we go to a game, if we lose 2-1, if we lose 1-0, as long as they've tried and gave 100% for the full match, I'll be like, yeah, great. You see, if a team's just half-arsed it, no. But this is what Kidderminster have got back. They've really pulled themselves in, and if they keep up the form that they're doing, there's no way that Kidderminster Harriers are going to go down.
No.
What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's happening in the relegation side of things?
Like you say,
it's so hard to call.
I think there's a lot of teams that can be pulled into it. And I got to be honest. I'm looking at the form right now, and the 2 bits of form that are really sticking out to me for people in danger at the minute, you would have to probably say are. So I think Dagenham's form isn't brilliant, and I know they've got some tough games coming up. But like you say, even somebody like Eastleigh on 38 points, but if you're going off their form, they're in tragic form. It's wide open, isn't it? It's really wide open, and yeah, I think like we always say with the playoff places, there's going to be one team this year that'll kind of get dragged into it from nowhere with like 3 weeks to go. Someone that we probably think are out of it as such, and then they'll just go on a run of like 3 games back to back, 4 games back to back, they lose, and then slap bang right in there, and then will they have time to get out? I don't know. But if you're asking me to name a team that I think that will be right now, I think it's too tight to call it, and I don't like sitting on the fence because I don't like splinters in my ass. But like I don't want to call it yet.
It's so hard. I think it's too tough to call of who could drop into. I mean, I think Oxford City for me are nailed on. I
Yes.
can't see Oxford City surviving this season at all. I think Woking will still go down as well. I think the bottom two will go. The others, Ebbsfleet and Kidderminster. Yeah, but you say that Woking have got 2 games in hand on both Kidderminster and Ebbsfleet.
Yeah.
They could easily turn that round. But yeah, Oxford City for me are nailed on. Between everyone else.
The thing is, I feel like Fylde will have enough about them to stay up because if you look at their form, it's been pretty much immaculate over the last 5 games. There's still big question marks over York because I think I'm a bit worried for York, and I've said it from the start of the season. You know, you got this money, you got this takeover, you got these, you know, all these players, and it's just not working. And you wonder whether sometimes you can kind of take too much of a risk with a football club, and I wonder whether that is sort of what we're seeing transpire right now. But like you say, it's anyone's game at the minute.
It would be interesting to see if York went down. I don't want York to go down, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's have they done too much? But yeah, it would be a really interesting one to see. By the way, while I was on the point of signing, and I'm kind of going back to this and on the relegation battle side of things, the National League signing of the window / deadline day.
Freeman.
Nope.
No.
The return of, for me, one of
Shimanga.
the best strikers in the National League. Kabi Tshimanga.
Yeah.
How could I have forgotten to say that? It's when I was looking at the league table and I was like, Boreham Wood. Oh,
I said this on deadline day, and this is one of our strong opinions that we love. I feel like there's a reason. Obviously, I know he's had injuries, but there's a reason his career's nosedived a little bit. And, you know, he might get like 15 goals, whatever he's going to get. But I don't think he's the same player. I think that's fairly obvious. And I don't know whether, like, don't get me wrong, it's an incredible signing. But I feel like everyone's kind of like blowing it up to be like this mad thing. And I don't see it yet myself. I might be wrong, but I think it's another case of a player that went somewhere quite rightly for an EFL chance, but that brought a lot of pressure. Brought you know, a couple of, because didn't he got loaned? Did he get loaned? He got loaned somewhere before, didn't he? And it didn't work out. From Posh originally when they signed him, I can't remember who it was, but it didn't work out at all. And I just look, he is probably gonna rip it up because he was a monster at this level. There's no denying that.
Oh, he was unbelievable. So obviously he was at Chesterfields, and then he moved to Peterborough, and then it was Fleetwood that he went to, and he made 14 appearances for Fleetwood and didn't score. He's not scored in the EFL. Despite the seasons before, he's just scored a bucket load.
Sometimes you can get them players that are just like phenomenal non-league National League players and just not quite good enough for that step up, and that's all right, isn't it? I guess that's
all right.
fine.
I mean, it surprised me.
Like one of the ones that always sticks out to me, and not just because he played for Oldham, but Danny Rowe. Filed, and then, you know, he got his move to us, scored goals, but he's not been able to do it any higher. And I think there's some players that just have like a limited ceiling. But while you're talking about the signing of the window for the National League quickly, I was just going to mention, for me, it is Freeman at Barnet, because I don't understand how they pulled that off. Like he was in a side last year that got promoted to the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? Like
Crazy.
he played, I think it was like 15, 16 times in that side last year, and now he's in the National League. It's mad. And I said this again. We don't want to go too far over in this podcast, but I said on deadline day, I said the amount of money that is so obviously floating about the National League now is frightening.
Crazy. I think we spoke about this.
Frightening.
We spoke about this a couple of months ago about saying, do you have to put money in to really challenge at the top side of this table and then to get into? We spoke about this a few weeks, it'd be a month or two ago, didn't we? But yeah, scary, scary money in the National League, and it's weird. Sometimes you see the men separated from the boys. It's also why I'm being surprised at York's poor season with the money that they've pumped in. But hey ho,
yeah.
So from one managerial change where form has upturned to another managerial change where form has upturned, and that is Super Kevin Phillips coming in to become the Hartlepool United manager a couple of weeks ago. What an upturn. What an upturn in form. What an upturn in play by Hartlepool. Like, I watched the game at the weekend against Bromley and I had no expectations for us whatsoever. Because when I was at the game at the return fixture at the Vic, Bromley were all over us. Like, all over us. And I thought it was going to happen all over again, right? So Andy Woodman knows exactly how to play against us.
Yeah.
Exactly how to play against us. He'd clearly done his homework. They came out the traps fast in the first 10 minutes because most of I think it's something like 10 games this season, Hartlepool have conceded a goal in the first 10 minutes, which is mental. They just seem to sleep for the first 10. And
it takes you a while to get going.
It really does take us a while to get going. I don't know why. They just need to be there from the outset, from the first second, bang, go. But Bromley scored in like the 8th minute, and I was like, oh, fuck, here we go again. And they should have had 2 or 3, maybe in the first 15 minutes. And I was like, this is going to be a long game because Mancini was out injured again. Unfortunately, he picked up an injury in training.
A big one?
I don't think it was a big one. They've just said an injury that he picked up in training. So
okay,
hopefully he's not out for too long. But I don't think we missed him too much at all. And that's a huge thing. Like before when Mancini was out, it's a case of going, this is going to be tough. But now I'm not really worried. Hartlepool looked solid. They looked organised. And it's probably the most professional display I've seen from a Hartlepool team in a couple of years. It was a really good display. The 2 new centre backs at Hartlepool are playing with Parks and Waterfall. It's like night and day to what I've seen for the last 2 years at the club. So yeah, really happy. 2-1 win for Hartlepool, and Hartlepool are very much for me. I'm feeling positive. There's a reason I cut off at 12 for relegation because I don't think we're going down. I think we're going to make that late push. There's my prediction. I'm saying it now. We're going to make a late push.
I'm only smiling, right?
Will we make the playoffs? I don't know, but we're definitely going to make a push.
I'm only smiling. Look, we'll talk about my thoughts and feelings about Hartlepool first, but I think this is so. We just talked about the importance of experience, but also with Hartlepool, you've got the excitement of a young, fresh manager with new ideas, like new philosophies, fresh philosophies, and you're reaping the rewards. And you seem to be getting the best out of Manny as well now. Not Honoris there. I mean, Desiree. And that could be vital for you because he is your like talisman, isn't he? Like your go-to striker, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm only smiling because I don't look. There is always one team that could make the playoff, but I will say, and I will quote right because I've got it right here on Saturday, and this draws into the Oldham fixture, which we will touch upon for a minute later on. But on Saturday, 5 minutes after all the full-time whistles, Grant sent me this, and I quote: he sent me, "We're on your tail, mate." So I sent back saying, good win, congratulations, but let's not get stupid." So this man is trying to tell me that he thinks he can chase down a team that are 6 points clear of them already with 2 games in hand. If this happens, then we don't deserve to be one of the big boys in the National League, if I'm being honest. Hence why, do you want to talk about the little deal we brokered this week, Grant?
Yeah, so we made a wager on the back of this, and I still stand by the fact that we are on your tail. 6 points in 2 games in hand is nothing. Absolutely nothing. I would rather have the points on the board than 2 games in hand.
Yeah, but you say this, but we've got the 6 points on the board over you.
That's fine. You guys can't play the bottom teams.
Yeah, that you know what? That's
absolutely shit the bed at the bottom teams, and you have games like you fucking did against Ebbsfleet. Like we'll
that
talk
hurts,
about that.
man.
We'll talk about that next. Like you have games like that with all your strikers, where you can do fuck all. Like, but yeah. So we've put a little bet on, and it's surrounding Oldham and Hartlepool in the playoffs. Now, I should know better than to enter into bets with Oldham fans, because last time I entered into a bet with an Oldham fan, I ended up with a fucking bright orange Oldham top with Fondop on the back of it. So I've not got a good track record. I've not got a good track record of betting with Oldham fans. But you've put a little caveat in it, and it's surrounding Hartlepool and Oldham's playoff desires. So let us know your caveat.
So
I can't remember.
So the original bet, if I'm not mistaken, is
the original was whoever finishes higher.
Yeah, so if we'll finish higher than Oldham, I donate £20 to a charity of your choice. And if Oldham finish above Hartlepool, then you donate 20 to my choice. But
yeah.
I'm that confident that I've said Oldham have to finish above Hartlepool and make the playoffs, because if we don't make the playoffs, then that, like I just said, you deserve to have my 20 quid, Grant.
That's fair.
It's as simple as that. I mean, yeah, like I don't want to be arrogant, and I don't want to become like too cocky, because people will be thinking Oldham have been shit over the last 2 games, and that would be right, that would be fair, but also I always think no matter who you are, you're going to go on a little bit of a mini sort of bad spell of form in a season, you know. And this is our first proper big one for like months and months, really. And like, I'm not too worried, because like you say, we seem to struggle. It's a mentality thing I've spoke about on here before. We seem to struggle against the teams that we should be beating, and then beat all the teams that we're in competition with to get out of the division. So by that reckoning, when it comes to a playoff race, you would hope on paper we'd be okay, because we beat 6 of the 7 current playoff holders, placeholders already this season. So I'm not too worried, but we just need to pick it up a bit. I think the problem we've got now is we've been backed to the hill this January, made some really good signings, but look, I think Mellon's done a great job for us, and since he's come in, he's certainly got us, you know, like where we want to be, considering Mr. David Unsworth left us 14th and 11 points off the playoffs when he left. So there has been a very, very good. There has been a very, very good turnaround, but in the last couple of games, I think I wouldn't say we're being found out, but obviously we play with wing backs, Kitchen on the left and Sachdev on the right, and that's literally the only bit of width we've got with the formation at the minute, and it's not working. And I've always said, if you're going to have a 2-striker formation, you need traditional out and out wingers up and down them flanks, crossing the ball in, and we don't have that at the minute. Obviously, Kitchen's got a nice little delivery on him, but he is very a little bit. Sometimes he can be a little bit tentative to get forward because of his defensive duties. So we
Yeah.
need to change the formation to get people like Devon Green back involved. Maybe even pull people in like Ben Tillett in from the cold, because I know them two names might not be the most popular names with Latics fans, but the one thing that both of them players give you is directness. You know what I mean? They'll run at a man and try and cross a ball in, and it's no good having Andrew Dallas, James Garner, Mikey Fondup, and James Norwood if you don't have the service to them.
No. You
And
need to be
like
able, big men like that need the service coming in.
that's the problem we've got. But like, yeah, so I think just maybe a formation change, and I think Mickey's smart enough and a more adaptable manager to probably realise that in the last two
Yeah.
games. So I wouldn't be surprised to see on Saturday if he does change the formation slightly. But look, there's been a lot of meltdown on the Oldham Twitter in the last week, in the last two games, and I can understand it because the performances have been so subpar. But also, you have to put things into perspective. Before the game on Saturday night, we'd won our last 4 away games in the league. You know, we've been doing really well, and we're still in and
Yeah.
around it. And obviously, Oldham should make a playoff place. I'm not disagreeing that we shouldn't, but considering where we came from 3-4 months ago to where we are now, we're right in and amongst it. And I think that's sometimes what you've got to keep an eye on and not get too emotional about. And obviously, the big thing probably from that game is Norwood's suspected hamstring injury. We don't know the extent of that, but obviously he went off stretching for a ball that he kind of collided with the goalkeeper with. But like I said to you, obviously losing somebody of James Norwood pedigree for anyone else probably in this division would be catastrophic. But we've got 5 other strikers that you think, you know what, now's time to step up. You know, Andrew Dallas has got 20 goals in this division. You know what I mean?
Bags of experience.
Mike Fondup can get goals in this division. Joe Garner can get goals anywhere. So we've got players that can cover for him. Obviously, it's not ideal, but I think even if Norwood's out now, say worst case scenario, say he's out all season. I don't think he will be, but say he is, and we don't make the playoffs, that is still a catastrophic failure in my opinion.
That's fair. And just to clarify, the game finished Ebbsfleet 0, Oldham 0.
Yes.
And it was the most boring fucking game of football I have ever watched in my life.
I think the highlight might have been, well, I don't know whether it's a highlight or a low light, but the only talking point of note was the James Norwood injury. That was the only thing. That was the only thing that happened.
Got another one. Fondup done another mini run for the cameras, didn't he?
Yes. Now I've seen Latics fans, and they could have cases. So I love Big Mike, so I'm not going to slander him too much. But he's only ever brought that run out twice, and both the games were on camera. So
he does it for the camera.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing. But look,
he knows. He's a showboater.
Like I said, with our situation, I think obviously there is a mentality problem there that we need to address. We can't beat the teams that we should be beating, but also it's not meltdown season at all yet by any stretch of the imagination, in my opinion. Like, you know, I still expect us to get in the playoffs and be there come May. So yeah, it's just one of them, and it's a bit of a mini bad spell at the minute, but I'm sure we've got the quality to get out of it. So yeah,
I'm sure you do. Now, what we're going to do at the moment is cut to a very, very brief advert break. We still have advert breaks here now, so that thing has not changed. Whoever the sponsors are on the adverts and who you're going to hear, I don't know. But we appreciate every single one of them. We'll be back with you in uno momento. And we're back. Welcome back. Thank you for everyone, as I said before, for advertising on this podcast. So we've got a couple more games that we're wanting to discuss on this one that we addressed. One of a team that you mentioned this to me before we recorded that you were wanting to talk about a team that you said you think is going to drop off, and another one at the very, very top end of the table. So firstly, we'll talk about the Rochdale versus Dagenham game, the Rochdale situation. Just going through still a tough time, aren't they? It's like a typical first season dropping into the National League Rochdale are having, isn't it? Takeover coming through, takeover talks, takeovers falling through, takeovers falling through, struggling to find form, injury. Do you think it's just the case of them really adjusting to this league in their first season?
It's typical first season syndrome times 2 for Rochdale. I think like the cards that Jim McNulty is getting dealt with and has had dealt with this season are staggering, really. And like I feel like you threw me under the bus a little bit, Brad, when you segued this and you was like, now a team that Aaron thinks is going to drop off and people will be thinking, oh, he's an Oldham fan, so he just said that on purpose for the rivalry. But no, I've actually got opinion to back it up. So I said on a Rochdale podcast 2 weeks ago to them that from a journalistic point of view, I don't know what you, Grant, think, but I said a top 12 finish, so effectively a top half finish, and a stable summer looking to push onto a takeover would be what I would regard as a very successful opening season for Rochdale. Mm-hmm. Now, it might not seem like that for Dale fans at the minute because they've been overachieving, you know, and I've said, and I still stand by it at the minute. Obviously, we obviously know it'll probably go to Paul Cook, but if I had my way and the awards were now, I'd give Jim McNulty the manager of the season.
Yeah.
And like, I think the job he's done with that squad and how bare that squad is marvelous. But now I think you're just starting to see, like, the fact that the same 11 players have to play every single game, or the same 15 squad players have to be in the squad every week. You're seeing the sort of fatigue now, and like the run doesn't really get any easier, really, does it, in the next couple of weeks either? That's what worries me. But I think, like I said, top half finish and a stable summer lead into a takeover would be a phenomenal season. First season for Dale at this level.
I think it would be as well. And I think what I would really like to see Rochdale do is just have a decent finish to the league. Mm-hmm. Not getting into the playoffs wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them. Just having a good run.
Yeah.
Allow them to get some good news coming into the new season. Allow them to have some investment and build so they can have a more successful second season. Do I see them going away and running away and winning the league next season? No. Do I see them getting into the playoffs? Possibly. I think that has to be their aim next season. Is it a possibility that they don't next season? Yes, if things continue the way they are at the moment. I just see them having another stagnant season, which would just be so frustrating for them.
Yeah, I think the thing that sort of like would worry me as a Rochdale fan is like even the teams with decent funding and, you know, your Stockports and your Chesterfields and maybe even us if we don't do it this year, you're down here for a long time before you find a solution on how to get out, you know. So that's a worry for us all, I think, isn't it? But with Rochdale's situation, I think that gets sort of highlighted even more because, you know, we've seen the club statements this season calling for like funding and saying that the funding might be near the end and you know, like the importance for investment, and that is a worry for any football club. But I think it's especially a worry because you look at Rochdale, and again, this might sound salty, but I genuinely don't mean it. They don't have a historically large fan base to build on.
No.
You know what I mean? They get 2,000, they may be lucky if they get 3,000 gates at home every week. And like that's why you need the outside investment, because you're not going to build it organically through a fan base, and that's what would worry me as a Rochdale fan right now.
Yeah, it's where do they find that other investment coming in, because they're also fan owned as well, aren't they, at the moment? It's a tough time, and so many investments or potential investors are just falling by. I mean, we're seeing it just now at Hartlepool as well. Bids coming in, Raj Singh rejecting the bids, Owners Trust coming in, putting a consortium together, 2 bids coming through, both getting rejected. And I'm not afraid to say it, Hartlepool and Rochdale are 2, for this league, big clubs.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing more and more big clubs come into the league and struggle.
And look like they're going to come into the league as well, like based on this season, like Doncaster, you know? Like imagine I know we don't want to go into the new season yet, but imagine Doncaster in this division. That's what worries me. Now, I feel like I've got to do a bit of a service to my friend Aaron right now, Aaron the Doncaster fan. But I yeah, like you said, there's some big clubs in this division, and there's some clubs that won't be afraid to splash the cash as well. And I think
Do you imagine
that's
next
the way.
season Doncaster Rovers being in the National League?
I mean, not when you say it like that, it just sounds so wrong because like, I remember seeing Doncaster bloody in the Championship. You know what I mean? It's mad, is it? It's just mad. But again, it shows you what the lack of funding and a little bit of misneglection can do, and like fans not being happy at the ownership. I know Aaron's been talking for a while about banners. I don't know the situation to the fullest extent at Doncaster, so it'd be unfair for me to comment on it fully. But I know that they're not happy with something because they're having protests and banners and stuff, and it just shows like you can think you have the most comfortable position in the world with your football club, but then I know it's very cliche to say, but like literally a week is such a long time in football.
Yeah.
Anything could happen, couldn't it? Like even at Oldham's situation now, just because we've got Frank and we've got the board, like we
Yeah,
can't rest on our laurels because something could happen and it could all go kaput. So you've just got to keep switched on and
exactly.
never think. I think the thing I've learned about being in the National League for the last 2 years is never. And you said it before. Never think your club is too big to end up here
Nope. We've seen it
because
countless times.
it just isn't. Unless you're like a Manchester City, I think we can rule them out. Like you're not going to see a Manchester City, mind
Yeah,
you,
no.
with the pending charges, you might do, but
They could do a Juventus and just get relegated all the way down to National League North.
imagine, Jesus,
It'd be a season of fun when they came up and played us, wouldn't it?
City versus Chester.
Then you'd have City versus Hartlepool. I'd be like, fucking hell, let's go to the Etihad for a day out. It'd be amazing. Like 60,000 people at a National League game. It'd break all the National League records, wouldn't it?
It'd probably be 60,000 nil as well.
I know. Thing is, Pep said if something happened like that, he'd stay. Like,
Yeah,
imagine Pep
just
coming in and managing. So you've got Pep in one dugout and you've got Mark White in the other dugout. Like Mark
box
White, like,
office.
how do you think he's done today? Fucking shit, lads. We get pumped 10-0. Like it'd be that I would pay to see that interview. Like
See,
it'd be mad.
this is what's amazing about being back on low league. Look, we can just go on these mad tangents that don't necessarily have. We've just brought the Premier League treble champions
Into the
into the
National
National
League.
League podcast. Can
But
you get that anywhere else? I don't think you can.
nah, I don't think you can. But I mean, that comes off the back of talking about a potential reality of Doncaster Rovers. I'm changing. We just changed to League One, apparently. That's because
That,
Liam's jumped into the studio. But as it's talking about the real possibility of Doncaster Rovers coming into the National League next season, which would be fucking insane, like absolutely insane. And I think they would have a culture shock. It's like you said, never think you're too big for this league. They would have a right culture shock coming down, and I think they would struggle in their first season. They would think that they were going to bounce back straight back up.
absolutely.
We thought when we came down that we were going to bounce back straight back up and piss the league, and we called it a tin pot league, and we're going to walk it. You've done the exact same. The only team that's done it is Grimsby. Grimsby came down and straight back up.
Yeah.
In recent years.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like also people that don't follow the National League, they think it's because it's got non-league attached to it, they think it's non-league standard, but the standard of this division is progressing and getting better and better season upon season. At some point, we're gonna, and again, it's probably for a different podcast. We could probably do a whole podcast on it, but I'm a big believer in at some point that this has got to become EFL's official Division 5.
Do you know what? I would love to see it become League 3, but there's got to be there need to be a complete negotiation to buy some of the clubs or buy the rights to this, because it's two totally different ownerships. Because you've got the EFL has your Championship, League 1 and League 2. Then your National League covers your National League North and South. So there need to be a restructure to North and south to allow for that. I don't know. I think that is something we'll probably need to look at a bit more, and maybe discuss next week how you would look to structure the leagues and the league system if you were wanting to bring in an EFL League 3. But there's certainly an argument there for the quality that's in this league still. You've seen it from the teams that have went up and have made an instant impact or a very big impact in the leagues above. You look at Stockport, you look at Wrexham, you look at Notts County in the last couple of seasons, just to name a few.
Yeah, and like it's like this season. I know it's a bit of a tangent because it's a level playing field, or people say it's a bit more of a leveler. But you've seen more sort of non-league National League sides have more sort of longer, successful FA Cup runs as well in previous years and this year as well. You know, look at
Maidstone.
Maidstone, yeah, that's what I mean. It's just I think the quality of the English pyramid altogether is getting stronger and stronger upon years. But like I said, that's probably a podcast for another night, and we could talk about that just in general. That'd be quite good to do in the future, I guess.
I think we look at that, and for next week, we talk about how we would want to structure League 3. So that is your homework for next week. I want you to have a nice structure to how many teams you would look into it, what we'd look at from a promotion and relegation side of things, and we can go into that in a bit more detail next week.
Very
challenge accepted.
Yes.
Challenge accepted, Aaron. Excellent. Right. Promotion. We're going to have to talk about them. We're going to have to talk Chesterfield. I mean, the league's wrapped up, isn't it?
I mean, there's wrapping the league up, and then there's doing what Chesterfield did. I think they're just pissing on all of us at the minute. like it's just mad, and like I've never ever been jealous of another football club before in my life, really. But I'm jealous of that Chesterfield side. I think it's a bit more of a harder pill to swallow for me. The fact of you look at the pre-season odds, and it was Oldham and Chesterfield neck and neck according to the bookmakers, and I believe we would have had a better chance to catch them if we didn't give David Unsworth the dinosaur 14 games of the season. You know what I mean? So, but listen, like we had a discussion, and I'm curious to see if you can agree or if you can think of any other teams that might run them close. But in my very sort of limited time of watching the National League in the last maybe 3-4 years, I think Chesterfield go down as probably this Chesterfield side go down as the greatest team ever to be in the National League. I think in some ways as well, I think obviously you had the magical, title race last year with Notts County and Wrexham. I think that tells its own story, but I'm talking about I've not known a team to just dominate the way Chesterfield are dominating and like have the mentality of like, I see Chesterfield go 1-0 down, and I know when I'm next going to check my phone, they're going to be 3-1, 4-1 up. You know what I mean? I don't know. They're just mentality monsters, aren't they?
So my question to counter that is, are they the best team to grace the National League? Or is the National League a little bit poorer this season?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like this National League is very open, though. It's like we've seen anyone can beat anyone. But we say anyone can beat anyone, but then anyone can't beat Chesterfield. So that's the discrepancy, I think.
It's when you look at it, last season, you had 2 teams that got more than 100 points. Yeah. You're not going to see any other team get close to 100 points this season.
No.
But I just think tight you're looking here from second. Well, second and third. There's nothing between Bromley and Barnet. But then fourth down to 11. See, I'm cutting down to 11th again there. There's only 9 points between them.
I just think in terms of sheer dominance, they might be in their own little category because, and this is absolutely staggering to say, but they are, they are 19 points clear with 2 games in hand. Have you ever said that about any league before, ever?
It's bananas. I've not seen that
you
for a
know,
long
it's
time.
mad. And actually, this is where I've been probably a bit stupid and a bit brave, and again, gamble responsibly. But about halfway through this season, I put a bet on in the bookmakers because you can't do it on Sky Bet that. I think Chesterfield will go back to back. I think they'll win League Two as well.
There's a call. There's a call right now. I've said that the last couple of seasons. I said I thought Stockport would go back to back. They didn't. Said I thought Wrexham would go back to back. Looking unlikely that they're going to go back to back. But yeah, it's a big call. I'll remember that call, and we'll see what happens. But I think they only need to win 8 more games. And
Yeah,
that's the league done. I don't think it will be 8. I think they wrap it up in 5.
I swear, if the little gloaty swines win it at Boundary Park, I swear on my life, I will tip myself out of my wheelchair. You best believe it. They're like, don't speak to me. Do you understand? Anywhere.
What? If they're 3-0 up, you're going to get the game match abandoned due to a medical emergency.
Mate, if they're 3-0 up, I'll be back at home. Let me tell you.
I think you'll be in the back of an ambulance calling for a medical emergency to abandon the match. It's like, stop, there's a guy with cerebral palsy just lying down, and that's it, done. Like, we don't know what's going on. He can't get back into his wheelchair because the wheels have fell off.
I'll just start making dinosaur noises.
And that's you done. Oh, God. But yeah, that's...
No, but the thing is, Chesterfield fans, the one thing you can get over me is I'm only saying all this because of how severely jealous I am of you. Like, this is what I wanted Oldham to be this year. This is what I thought in June of last year. I thought Oldham were going to be this year, and we're just not. And I think that, like, the good thing is like you say, that there hasn't had to be. So Chesterfield have always been in their own sort of league, but then, like, you can still be sort of shit and be in the playoff places because of how inconsistently bad the rest of the division is. Do you know what I mean? So, like, but again, the prospect of potentially playing them again next year absolutely frightens me.
I don't want them in the league next year. But then, yeah, in fact, fuck it, Doncaster can come down. They'll struggle.
Get Forest Green down as well.
Do you know what? I don't want Forest Green down.
That's what you get for not eating cheeseburgers.
I don't want Forest Green down here at all, because they will be an absolute thorn. They know what this league's like. They'll recruit to go back up. They've got to do something at some point. I'm surprised he didn't recruit as heavily. But they had an absolute shitstorm with Troy Deeney. It's just been so messy for them, and I don't think they'll get it wrong again next season if they come down. I think they would be a tough team next season in this league because they know it. They've escaped it before, and I think they can do it again. But yeah, Doncaster and Forest Green. Oh no.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see Charles Matchday blogs next year when he goes to Aldershot away.
Can you imagine lower league Matchday vlogs with Aaron Challoner at Kings Lynn? that's my normal opening. I was like, you don't really know what it's like to come down to the National League until you're away at Kings Lynn first game of the season and get dicked 5-0. Like, that's when you know that shit gets real, when you get relegated and that happens to you. It's an experience.
Very sobering.
It is very, very sobering. Anyway, have you got anything else to add for this one, Aaron?
Just, I think, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I will say is I thought, I know it's still early doors, but I thought with Southend's, take embargo being lifted and with them signing players, I thought they were going to make a late charge. But I guess the problem that you're seeing with them at the minute is they've signed these players. They've probably not had adequate time to gel yet, and then the results are starting to slow down. I don't know whether I put pretty much my chest on the line and say I don't think Southend will get a playoff place this season. But also, I think if we're talking about the big teams coming down, I think if you don't do it this year, you have to put Southend in the conversation for having a very, very positive big year next year. Do you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. I think Southend will have a good summer. I think they'll recruit well. They've got money behind them now. There's no embargo. I think they are a team to watch next season by a country mile. They're going to have a good season next season. Again, I said that about York this season, so not much to add.
So when we're here next year and Southend are in the relegation zone, basically Southend fans come for Grant. His Twitter handle is the real Grant Scott Johnson on Twitter.
Yeah, the real GSJ, come for me. Dorking fans already come for me anyway, so it's fine. You guys can join the party. I'm still getting likes on these Dorking posts, by the way, from Dorking fans going, "No, you don't know what you're talking about." I only asked a question saying, "Should Mark White bring in a manager?"
The thing is, I think to any other fan base, like that's the problem in it. To any other fan base, it's a more than valid question.
Yeah.
But to Dorking, to the way Dorking do things, I can understand why it went down like a lead balloon a little bit.
Honestly, they take it so fucking personally, to the point where the actual Dorking Twitter account was liking posts calling me a fucking idiot. Like, I think Mark White must run that as well.
You're not going to be on Mark White's Christmas card list next year, are you?
No, definitely not. Though a guy did say, "Look, I think you should come down to Dorking. Come down to a Dorking match. Come into the home end with us."
And get filled in.
No, he didn't want. He didn't want to get filled in. He goes, "I genuinely want you to come to a match, sit in the Dorking end, and just see what the experience is like. Feel the atmosphere at the club, get the feel of it, get the love for Mark White, and the whole situation here." And I get that. It's a club like no other, Dorking. And yeah, they're a special club from where they've come, and they've come from nothing. And Mark White's built this from the ground up, and there's so much respect for him for that. But what I'm trying to say is everyone has a ceiling for where you can take a club as a manager.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying he needs to get the fuck out of the club. Like, I seen a couple of tweets saying White out. I was like, it's a valid question to ask. Does he stay as a chairman? But just bring in an experienced manager. See if he'd have brought in Phil Brown. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Job done. But that's enough of my Dorking rant. I'm going to get more hate now. So here's Aaron.
That was a good one.
Anyway, should we wrap things up?
Yes.
I think we should. We're almost at the hour mark for this one. I've had a lot of fun. It's good fun being back on the original brand. I love it. Have you enjoyed your first lower league look outing?
Yes, so obviously it's my first ever time with lower league look, but I have enjoyed it very much, and I'm excited to have some sort of a bit more of, I don't know what the word is, creative freedom going forward, because I don't know what. In fact, should we touch upon the new National League podcast that will be hitting ears very soon?
I was gonna bring that in my sign out, Aaron.
Oh, I'm already one step ahead.
You're already one step ahead. Yeah, so on you go. You take it away. Then I will sign us out once you've taken that away for our new National League podcast.
So basically, what is happening? We're going to have two podcasts for the National League. So me and Grant are staying where we are. Don't worry, you don't get rid of me that easily. I'm staying here. I'm here to stay. But also, recorded on a Thursday, put out on a Friday, I believe. We're bringing a National League preview show to your ears, where me and my co-host Lauren, who is a Stockport County fan, so it'll be interesting because she wants to learn about the National League because she didn't see much of Stockport when they were in the National League. She wants to learn about the National League, so it's my job to educate her. So she's probably gonna be in for a ride with that. But yeah, so basically it's this sort of very similar format, but we're gonna preview the games and talk about like the sort of key results to watch, the key players to watch, key battles on the pitch of a weekend to keep an eye on, and I've got some quite interesting segments I'm going to bring up in this new podcast. So we're very excited for you to hear it, and yeah, I can't wait to get going with that. And like I said, I thank Lower League Luck for the opportunity to let me come straight in and put like full trust and faith in me of doing what I do best, and I'm running something new, so I'm very excited. Yeah.
It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to getting that launched, coming out on a Friday, as Aaron says. Don't forget as well, if you've listened to us, go and listen to all the other podcasts that's brought out on our channel. They've all been recorded tonight, all being released tonight, tomorrow, some point or another. You will see it. Go and give all of our socials a follow. Follow our TikTok, follow our Twitter pages, Lower League Look, Non-League Look. It's a hell of a lot of fun. It's going to be a good journey. Go on to our YouTube page, smash the subscribe button, hit the little bell to get notified when our videos go up as well, and when we go live for our breakdown show, whenever we may be doing that, Thursdays usually. Everyone, have a lot of fun. Have a great day. Have a good night's sleep if this has been what's putting you to sleep. Like I said at the start of the show, I'm really excited to say this last bit. Guys, thank you very much. We have been the Lower League Love.